There can come a time when these certain abused parties might begin to think, well, perhaps this is not such a healthy relationship after all.
Welcome to the Nerdy Thirties.
Hello.
I'm Erin Naoma.
I'm Travis Harrison. We just switched it up on you.
I know we did. We have a special guest with us here today. His name is Neill Robertson, and he is playing Renfield in the Actors Theatre of Louisville's production of Dracula. We are so excited to have you here, Neill. Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I've never done a podcast before.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Oh, no.
Lots of cackling, and we're going to try, since this is, we're doing some stuff with the Actors Theatre right now, we're trying to keep it better than we normally do.
Oh.
Trying to keep a better language.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just slips out.
Sure.
So we'll go ahead and so we wanted to know a little bit about you starting out. So how did you get started as an actor?
Well, I have always been a mimic. You know, when I was a little kid, I would always act out my favorite scenes from movies and TV shows, and I think my mom really recognized that in me. So she suggested that I try out theater and acting classes, and I did, and it stuck, and I did it for, you know, from kindergarten all the way through senior year of high school. When I got into high school, I discovered a program called Walden Theater.
Nice.
It's now part of Commonwealth Theater Center. And that's when it went from like, oh, this is really fun, this is what I do for fun, to like, oh, this is my like life purpose. This is what I want to do professionally. And, you know, they demanded a professional decorum and focus. And so that's when everything changed. And so then I went to school in New York and, you know, lived and worked up there for 7 years. Came back to Louisville because, you know, Louisville has a magnetic pull to it. And it is home, and I love it. And I was also really impressed with the, like, indie community theater scene down here.
Yeah.
Several times when I came back home on a visit, and I would see a friend in a show, you know, and I think, God, these audiences are full. And they're arts patrons. It's not just desperate friends and family that you dragged along. I mean, really supportive people that are interested in the work that's happening. And I thought, I really want to be a part of something like this. And I came back, and I've been here ever since. And, you know, I got really into the community theater scene for a while. And then I, you know, auditioned for Kentucky Shakespeare and got in with them. And that led to several years of professional work. And then, lo and behold, I was, you know, contacted by the people at Actors Theatre to audition for Renfield, and I thought, oh my God, I have to do this.
Oh, absolutely.
And I did, and, you know, a friend of mine gave me an amazing piece of advice, and that was, after the audition, she said, just go on the assumption that you did not get it. Right. And I said, okay, I'm totally at peace. It's totally fine. Yeah. You know, I'm okay. So then when I got that email, it was just like the best day of my life. You know, it was so exciting.
That is amazing. How long have you been doing Renfield?
This is my second year, but I have a very long-standing history with the show because one of my dear old friends, Margaret Streeter, was the very first little girl vampire. Back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I remember, you know, reading an article in the Courier Journal all about her, and my mom said, oh, we've got to go see Margaret and Dracula. And I went, and I was, you know, I was like maybe 11 or 12 years old, sitting in the front row, when the lamp exploded in my face. Plot twist. Sorry, guys. That happens.
It does. I've seen it.
But yeah,
Spoilers.
I was so excited by the show. And to know, like, this little kid, I was like, I know her. And she's running around with all these, you know, really amazing actors.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, it became something off and on throughout the years. My friends and I would love to go see the show in high school. And then when I came back, you know, I had friends that were understudying for Van Helsing, so I would come and support them. And
so it's just been around your life the entire time.
It has, you know, and I've had the pleasure of seeing all these really cool, subtle changes that have been made.
Yeah.
And this year, there are some major changes. Some I'll tell you about, some I will not.
Yeah.
You know, but it's really exciting. That you have to do that to keep something that's been running for 20-something years.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to, you know, of course.
Gotta keep it fresh.
You do. You have to keep it fresh. You still want to give the people what they, you know, what they come back for every year. Christmas Carol, Dracula, these are holiday traditions. So they can't stray too far, you know, because that's why people, you know, like to see the same show at the same time every year. It's a tradition, so
Right.
you
Oh,
can't
absolutely.
just,
Would you say that the Renfield you're portraying this year is a different character than you did last year? Or
there's so much about the character work, the voice, the body that is very much the same.
Yeah.
But his intentions and his the direction that he goes in this production is very different. My arc is totally different this year than it is last year, and I think for the best.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. I cannot wait for people to see this. And I'm the type of person that I usually just I overshare and give everyone far too many details.
That's okay.
Same.
But I'm
We
actually,
do the same exact thing.
I
We're
actually,
a spoiler podcast.
right? I actually don't want to tell people too much about what happens because I'm so excited about how different it is. Yeah.
I love it. So what is it that makes this Dracula different from the adaptations that we've seen in different medias?
Well, this Dracula is in your face. Especially that it's live theater,
It's literally there.
Right? It's literally in front of you.
You can smell people.
It's not too cerebral. It's not really a slow burn.
Yeah.
This production is so unique because it is terribly exciting.
Right.
And adrenaline pumped, and it really keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Right.
I've watched a lot of different versions of this, working on the show, and I was watching clips from, the amazing Christopher Lee as Dracula in Count Dracula, which is from the 70s. And it's wonderful, but it's definitely a slow burn. Then
There's
you
a
have...
lot of buildup.
Right? Then you have, the Francis Ford Coppola film version, which completely romanticizes Dracula and makes it into a love story. And sure, it's nice to motivate all these things, but he's a predator and a monster, and I don't think it's appropriate to romanticize that. And our culture loves that. We have Twilight. We have Interview the Vampire, where
we just did a podcast on Twilight.
That was our last.
Right? I was reading about that.
Yeah.
Men got angry because we were like, it's not that bad, guys. It's just kind of...
Calm down.
Oh, it's a thing that exists.
Amazing concept. Let people like what they like.
I know!
Yeah,
Mind blown!
Right? But, and those are definitely examples of, romanticizing the notion of vampirism. And this version does not do that at all. He is a terrifying monster that must be stopped. And I definitely side more with that, just because I think it is a wonderful... you have to ask yourself, why are you telling the story year in, year out, every, over and over again? And obviously it's fun, it's exciting, it's Halloween-y, but... I think it is very important in the world we live in today, and the culture we live in, to sort of give this example of this powerful, rich predator and how we just destroy them. If for any other reason that it gives you hope.
Right. Absolutely.
You see what they're doing, guys? You see it?
I'm not... We won't point it out, but I'm pretty sure you can infer.
Right.
So earlier you were telling us, this was something that I've always been fascinated about with the Renfield character. You were telling us that you have to put padding on before you even can practice being Renfield.
Suit of armor.
Have you ever gotten hurt doing Renfield? Because, there are stunts that you are doing that you're just flopping around on the floor, jumping on top of stuff.
Well, I am very protected. I have a director who is a fight choreographer.
Oh, good.
I have a fight choreographer who is a mad genius. And not to mention a very responsible, supportive cast around me. So I am protected. My stage management team is incredibly protective, and I have a suit of armor, essentially, underneath the straitjacket.
Yeah.
It's padding on all of the joints, any point of impact. Elbows, knees. I have these really cool shorts that have padding on the thighs, the hips, the lower back. So, I have everything in place to keep me alive so I can do my job. But, there's impact.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
Absolutely.
So just playing the role at all, definitely,
You get some bruises.
You got some bruises. I've got some now. I had but I've not had any major injuries, nothing serious, just the wear and tear. It's a tough role, so you're just going to get the bruises, no matter how safe you are or how padded you are. It just comes with the job.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
With it being that physically demanding, it's also mentally demanding.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
How do you mentally prepare to be Renfield? What is your process for him?
I just have to, I lived in New York for 7 years.
Yeah.
I've, a lot of people that have lived in, a big city like that probably have their own horror stories about, being mugged or, I don't know, God forbid something worse.
Right.
But, you have to, if you want to tell that sort of truthful story, you have to, remember a place in your life experience where you felt terribly afraid and desperate, and so, I try not to overthink it, but you have to allow that vulnerability to take you there. You just have to go to a place of fear and panic, and it's actually very cathartic as an actor to be able to play roles like that. I think a lot of people are afraid of being vulnerable like that or going to a place like that as an artist, but it's actually really good for you because it gives you the place, the safe place to release it, to confront it and really use it, and then that makes you feel powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, I try not to overthink it because I think it would really get to me if I did.
Right.
But you just have to let go and go there all the way, and I just try to also have fun with it.
Yeah.
There's obviously so much opportunity for comedy in a role like Renfield. Now, that's also a trap. You can run the risk of it just becoming shticky and just being all the winking and, jokes to the audience, but there has to be a reason for it. We've talked a lot about comedy as a defense mechanism, and I think a lot of people are that way. I'm that way.
Oh, absolutely.
Making jokes and laughing your way through pain, and he is absolutely that person. How else would you survive in a, turn of the century mental asylum?
Yeah.
Oh my
Exactly.
God.
I think comedy is actually super necessary to go hand in hand with horror because those are my favorite kind of horror movies.
Yeah.
It's like if they take a second to be like, well, this situation's messed up.
Kind of breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, I mean, like, how else are they going to survive and have that fighting spirit if they're just not, like, taking a second to be, like, pumping themselves up?
Yeah.
Right? As a storyteller, it's also really good because you make the audience think that they can relax, they can rest, it's time to breathe, and then you pull the rug out from underneath them and scare the crap out of them.
And they're like, ah!
Yeah,
What do I do now?
I trusted you!
Yeah, no. Comedy is definitely necessary.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at a lot of Shakespearean tragedies that are like super bloody and violent.
Right.
They're hysterical.
They are.
Yeah.
There's so much comedy in Hamlet. There's so much comedy in every tragedy.
You have to break it up.
Absolutely.
I think it's mainly because that's the human experience. That's how we deal with things. And if they don't have the comedy inside of these tragic or scary things, I mean...
It's just misery.
It's misery. And humans strive for happiness.
Absolutely.
I think people are afraid to make jokes when something bad happens, but, like, sometimes those are the best laughs you have.
That's exactly right.
It's dark and it's messed up, but yeah.
Right.
Or, like, years later, you'll be reminiscing about a terrible thing that happened, and you're like... But that moment was kind of funny.
Right.
Just a little.
Right.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, Renfield definitely has to do that. That's the only way that he can survive this. I mean, the horrible existence before Dracula showed up.
Right.
But now maybe
Tell us
even
about
worse.
it. What was his existence before Dracula? That's actually one of our questions.
Yeah.
Well, I don't personally, you believe what you want to. I don't think that he is crazy. I think that, and we know, history has told us that any sort of social misfit could be institutionalized for the most absurd, mundane reasons. And I just think
especially
that
at that time
Renfield,
period.
of course. I just don't think he fit in. And it's an easy place to put him. And, we don't sort of envision Seward's Asylum as like a state-run hospital. Right. It's a private asylum. So, I think and the way that Renfield speaks, he's very eloquent. He's very intelligent.
Articulate.
I think that he probably came from an upstanding family, and maybe his lifestyle was, not the norm. I like to think that maybe he wanted to go into the theater when his father wanted him to go into business, and we
were talking about that last night, and I was like, I bet he had a thing for Dracula. He was like, there's a dark, mysterious man, and he's going to give me my dreams. Yeah, I'll eat a few bugs. Okay.
Right. Well, and who knows? Maybe the bug eating was, a habit.
Yes.
A compulsion, if you will.
A little OCD.
It's an excellent source of protein.
But you know what? People that were poor at that time did eat bugs.
Sure, and you know what? You go to some, elite boutique somewhere. They dip it in dark chocolate, put a little sea salt on top, and it's a delicacy.
I've eaten it. I have.
I don't think I've gone that method. But
we
maybe
might have to have you eat some bugs.
we were just at Jungle Gyms in Cincinnati. No sponsor, by the way. But there's like a whole section of like salted like worms
cheesy
and stuff.
Crickets.
And we're like, we should get these. And then we were like, well,
we should get them and feed them to Renfield.
I'm going to just continue to use my actor tool of imagination.
Imagination.
And work from there.
I don't blame you.
Sure.
I don't blame you at all. So, talking about the emotional things that you have to go through, was there any particular scene being Renfield that was difficult for you?
We talk about Dracula the whole show, as far as Renfield is concerned, what he does to him.
Yeah.
But when you finally get to see Dracula just beating on him, it is definitely the most vulnerable moment of the show, because it's no one else. It's just Renfield and Dracula.
Yeah.
And Renfield will lie to anyone to protect himself.
Right.
So he's not being completely truthful with Dracula, but he's not putting on a show anymore. And you see that he is, he's been this goofy, sort of lovable clown, but then you see that he is being horribly abused.
Right.
And it's terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
The inhuman strength that he has alone is terrifying, but to see, this is why he is so skittish, and, he's not just, generally crazy. He is traumatized.
Right.
And is, it's definitely the most heart-wrenching moment for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But also the moment that comes before that, when Renfield is the only time you see him drink blood. And he assumes this power after he does it. He says, Dracula will make me his second in command. And you know that he never was going to do that. And it's this moment where Renfield tries so hard to assume this power that he just doesn't have.
Right.
And it's really heartbreaking to see him sort of fall apart like that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That's like an angle I don't think I've seen in other adaptations, really.
Right.
Unless I haven't seen some of them in years, so maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. But, it's kind of like a whole battered, spouse situation.
Yeah, it's nice to actually see more of Renfield, because I feel like that character gets glazed over a lot in things.
We were just talking about, you mentioned earlier the 90s Dracula. I love that one, but Renfield, they just kind of play him like a Batman villain.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, you don't even know his name in Bram Stoker's novel. It's R. Renfield. And, obviously the fascination with the inner workings of the asylum, it's something that has excited people since the 1600s and probably before that, and so obviously the nature of the character is intriguing to anyone that's watching it.
Oh, absolutely.
But, we don't get very much. So I think anyone who adapts Dracula is going to want to mine the opportunities for storytelling within Renfield. I directed a production of Mac Wellman's Dracula in New York. Super weird. It's not the kind of gothic thriller. It's pretty bizarre. But
why is it bizarre?
It's not about the story of Dracula. It's about these women in Victorian England who have no power, who are dressed up to the neck, corseted, and how the vampirism releases them from all of that. It's not about, we have to defeat the vampire. It's about, women being controlled.
To be that vampire.
And how they become these powerful, independent entities when they become vampires.
Not gonna lie, I'm into this.
I know, I'm kind of fascinated.
There's some dark layers to it as well. It's not it's not romanticizing Dracula. But in that version, they have Jonathan Harker come back from Transylvania, having been fed upon by the vampire brides, and when he returns, he loses his mind and starts eating bugs. So they combine Jonathan Harker with Renfield.
Interesting.
So Lucy has a whole layer where she has to try to remind Harker of who he really is. And Harker is so lost. He says, I'm Renfield, you know, and he's, that's a really cool device, I think. But,
does your adaptation of Renfield ever have a moment where he has clarity? Where the Dracula hold is broken. Oh, I see a smile. Maybe it's a secret thing and we don't want to talk about it.
You will have to come see the show if you want to know the answer to that question. It's a very, very interesting one, and I would love to gush, but I want to keep that a secret.
Nice.
Excited.
I love secrets.
Yeah.
You can tell us after the podcast.
Absolutely.
She has this thing where she tries to get spoilers out of people. Like, we've interviewed
Not
authors.
for this. I don't want spoilers.
We've interviewed authors, and they've been like, this is like from 8 books from now.
That's because I do my research.
you.
It's because I have a little child face, and they're like, I want to tell you everything. And I'm like, please do. Please do. So, back to Renfield. What do you think it is about Renfield that makes him so appealing to Dracula?
Oh, because he's unassuming. He can go into his group therapy session, if they had those at Seward's Asylum, or perhaps his one-on-one therapy, and he can say, oh, there's a man in a cape who's been feeding me insects, and I believe he is the king of the vampires. And the doctor would say, all right, let's up the laudanum dosage and have a nice rest. You know? He can say all these things and you know, listen at doors and peek through keyholes, and no one is going to think anything of it because he is just, it's another day that ends in a Y, you know? It isn't until Van Helsing appears that someone says, this guy is not crazy. We need to listen to him because he knows something. But up until that point, Dr. Seward and Mr. Briggs and Miss Sullivan, they all write him off as just crazy, you know? And that's why he's so useful, because, you know, he's he can watch all these characters and you don't think that it's suspicious at all. But that's also why he is not useful to Dracula, because his mind can become very fragmented and it can jump all over the place, so it can be tough to use someone like that.
Oh, absolutely.
It just reminds me, we watched various clips of Renfield from different things last night, and there was a hair. We watched Dracula Dead and Loving It.
That's my favorite, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
It's so stupid and funny. But, like, there's that moment where he's like, Mister! I'm just like, that sounds like one of them moments where he'd be like, stop.
Please stop talking to people about what I'm doing.
Right.
But that is my favorite one. Steven Weber.
Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah, it just makes me so happy. It really does. What is your favorite? Well, actually, I'm going to change this. Is there a part of Renfield that you can identify with?
Oh my God. I mean, I definitely know what it's like to be seen as just like a clown and not to be taken seriously, and to know how it feels, that being stuck in that trap of like, well, comedy is the strong suit that everyone responds to, so I guess I'll keep using that. But yearning to be heard and really seen and taken seriously. I totally get that, because I am that way, you know? I am very weird and nerdy and silly, and so I do feel like I use comedy a lot to endear people to me, but at the same time, you know, I know how it feels to not really be seen as serious or, you know, not to be taken seriously. So I really get that. And I also, you know, I feel like I understand Renfield's kind of hyperactivity. I'm very much the same way.
So are we.
You know, so I definitely get that too.
Yeah.
Then his nature, I guess, you know, like obviously I can't relate to his insect, you know, addiction, and I can't really, I don't know what it's like to be attacked by a vampire.
Yeah.
But the nature of Renfield definitely speaks to me, and I can definitely relate to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of Renfield in all of us.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
You know.
It's just are we going to allow ourselves to let it out?
Yes.
I never knew how relatable Renfield was until this conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
And now I'm convinced. So he's done his job.
He
Good.
did it.
Mission accomplished. Oh,
So we have a little debate that we're wanting to do.
okay.
There's lots of different takes on Renfield and how people feel about Renfield. Is he a villain or is he a victim? What's your take on this?
Well, it depends on who you
Maybe,
talk
maybe we can all kind of go around and talk
Right.
about that.
Yeah. No, I think he's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
At first, he is spying for Dracula, but he's trying to just survive, And if somebody comes into your, padded cell and beats you into submission, of course you're going to do whatever they say, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. But then the people that you're looking to for help are also sort of, violent, and they don't take you seriously. So, I think he's an opportunist. He's the golem,
Yes.
He's not part of the fellowship, but he is not, working with the orcs. He's just trying to make it out alive.
He's like, I just want my ring. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want my life.
I want my ring,
bugs.
Dracula. Give it to me. Put a ring on it.
Exactly. I am actually probably in the same boat as you. Mm-hmm. I think he's a willing victim. When it first starts, I feel like he probably felt the power of Dracula.
Sure.
And thought to himself, okay, well, this guy might be able to help me because the people that I'm around right now in the asylum are not helping me.
No.
And
they're just as bad sometimes.
Exactly, and they're not listening to me, and I keep telling them all these things, and they don't care. And so he has this person come in that's really powerful and shows him a different way of life, and I think Renfield's like, maybe this is what's going to fix me. What's going to make me feel like a normal part of society.
Sure.
A quote-unquote normal, I should say, because what is normal,
right?
But I think that is what gets him in with Dracula. And then once he's in there, he's like, maybe this was a bad idea.
This is a bad idea. Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
I didn't really have many thoughts about it before last night when we started watching stuff.
Yeah.
And then he kind of touched on it earlier, and then we kind of had that little back and forth.
Yeah.
I do kind of think maybe Renfield's a little intrigued by him. And so, it's kind of hard to ignore your impulses when you see somebody like that. And then suddenly you're in too deep, and you're just like, oh, God, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So I feel like you said, he was a willing victim, but he's still kind of a victim, you know? So that's kind of my take on it. So.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most villainous thing that you would have him do?
Oh, well, I mean, trying to murder
he
Van
has him do, I
Helsing
should
is
say.
not very friendly or polite, Especially when you've only known each other for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, but that's sort of an accident, really. It's not really his fault, But I mean, those are the only things he does, really. We don't see any moments of him, giving Dracula the secret information that he wasn't supposed to, So I have to think, as an actor, that he leans more to the sides of a hero, I don't think that an actor should ever view themselves as the villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if you're playing Dracula or Iago or whomever,
Right.
I think all characters are heroic in their own minds.
Oh, I am doing what is right.
Yeah.
You are doing what is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like every character has to think that way.
That's what makes bad guys compelling.
Sure. If they are vindicated. If they believe in their, perspective and what they believe to be righteous. Absolutely.
I almost went to Buffy, but I'm not going to.
We're trying to... If you ever listen to our podcast, listen, it just happens. We've instituted a drinking game.
Yeah.
If we bring it up on a non-Buffy podcast, take a shot. But don't. it might be a problem for you.
It's not great. So, Neill, what is your favorite adaptation of Dracula?
Oh, goodness gracious. I would have to say the Coppola. I think it is stunningly beautiful. It's not, for me, it's not just about the story. The costumes in that movie are a work of art.
Yeah.
The makeup, and I think the practical old Hollywood special effects are what sells that movie for me. It ages perfectly because it's not CGI.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one, too. Even with British Keanu.
Oh, well, no, he doesn't count. We don't talk about that.
It's my favorite. He's like,
blazing and fun. Oh my god, it's awful.
I can't. I just picture him in Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Just constantly.
Him and Winona just doing bad British accents back and forth.
She cannot do.
So
Neither
good.
of them can do accents.
But I have learned that she's who got the movie made, because I think she bought the rights, and then she went to Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh, wow.
And
Get it,
so she kind of had to be cast. Oh, well.
She's like, producer credit, get me in there. Am I right?
I got it made!
Yeah, we all know my favorite. I don't need to say it again.
Which one?
Dracula, dead and loving it. Come
Oh, yeah.
on!
Oh, that is pretty good.
Oh my gosh, I can't even handle it. He is my favorite Renfield.
Oh, sure.
Because he's so squirrely and he eats all these bugs all the time and he's just like...
Yeah, no, he's really funny.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
I do like Tom Waits.
Yes.
You know, and I love the costume design for him. Those, like, crazy long tube sleeves for the straight jacket. It was really fun.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, and I love all the actors in that whole thing. It's pretty much just a Wings reunion.
It is. Sure, a bunch of Wings actors.
Which I'm completely fine with. Wings makes me happy.
Sure.
I watched it all the time as a kid, and I'm like, lovely. So, does the cast have any particular rituals before you go on stage?
Not really. Right now, you know, we're still in rehearsals, so maybe that'll change. I always go to the little cage that the rats are kept in, and I say hello to them, and I stick my little finger,
animal
and they come over and they
therapy.
sniff. So it's like I like to connect to the little rats before I go on.
Oh, that's
cute.
beautiful.
They are your co-stars.
And you don't eat them, right?
No, I don't. I don't even get to handle the rats.
Really?
No, the rat is only held by Mr. Briggs, the orderly. But I don't get to. But
Whose
you know,
rat is it?
They're from the zoo. They have handlers. Like, they're very professional.
They're raptors.
Right?
Oh,
That was terrible. Edit that out.
I'm leaving it. I liked it. Rattas.
Right.
Saratigan. Anyone?
Oh
Yeah.
my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Yes.
Yeah.
That stinking movie.
Oh my god.
Okay. Where else can people see you acting?
Well, I have been very fortunate to have worked with the Kentucky Shakespeare Festival very, very consistently for the past 4 years. So sometimes I tour with them in the spring and go all over the states and sometimes into other states. And I also have performed in Central Park in Old Louisville with them for the past 4 seasons. And
Nice.
we just finished, you know, a wonderful season in Central Park. Depending on what shows are happening around Louisville, other different local companies like Pandora or Theater 502. I'm also going to be doing a cabaret with Commonwealth Theater Center this spring. I get to play another bucket list dream role of mine,
What
the
is it?
MC.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
That is so exciting.
that's where you can find me, darling.
What is it about acting that keeps you coming back?
The human connection. There's something really special about telling a story and changing someone. If it's just that they were entertained and they laughed, or if they have a deep sort of cathartic realization because of the story that you told, or if they just feel like they relate to you in some way. It's really important, especially as a person who is very socially anxious and very introverted.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful place for me to connect to people in ways that I otherwise don't,
Yeah.
And I just love storytelling. I love every form of storytelling, if it's television or film or cartoon or radio or, theater. I just love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think I have to make my way to rehearsal because we are going into Tech Week, so it's busy. All get out.
Sounds exhausting.
It is very exhausting. There's blood tech, pyrotech, fog tech. Oh my goodness. Lots of moving parts, so.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
so
and
much.
being part of our podcast.
Absolutely.
You are an absolute treasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And we cannot wait to see you as Renfield.
I can't wait for you all to see the show.
It's going to be
good.
so
Super
good.
exciting.
I'm seeing it October 31st,
Ooh.
10 p.m.
Are you going to dress up?
Why
You
not?
should.
Why not?
Yeah.
She will now.
Well, I'm going to be dressed up as Daria from Daria.
Great.
So that's
But like,
what's going to happen.
vampire dog?
I'll put some fangs in.
Sure. Vampire Daria sounds like a good idea.
That's no big deal. We'll put
Is
some
Mitch
fangs
going to be
in.
Trent?
Yes, Mitch is going to be Trent. That's my husband.
Oh, I love
He
that.
can be vampire Trent. It'll be super cute. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. So much.
Absolutely.
Who's this? The door's open. Some guy's coming in.
Oh my God, don't tell them that I left. Let me just say, first and foremost, how lovely it is to be seated in a chair. I'm very accustomed to only being seated on the cold stone floor in shackles, darling. So this is the lap of luxury, let me tell you.
Great.
I'm very happy for you.
So just hold on just a second. We gotta-
Hold on to what?
The table.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, who are listening intently on the other side of your radio or whatever device you're listening on, I'm firmly holding on to the table.
Great.
all right?
Just keep
following
doing that.
rules.
He's not falling. He's
Just keep
good.
doing that. Maybe
Just-
be silent for a second. So
Just a moment.
Just a moment.
We're just gonna have a little sidebar here.
Okay.
So
This guy's in a straitjacket.
yeah, he's in a straitjacket.
So what do we do?
I'm not sure.
I'm a little scared.
I'm not sure who he is.
Do you think he might be that guy that Neil was talking about?
Who, Renfield?
Yeah.
I can hear everything you're saying, darling.
Okay.
I guess these boxes aren't that soundproof.
These are not soundproof boxes. We have made a terrible mistake.
Let's just go with it. We have some extra
It'll be
questions,
fine.
right?
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Great.
So we'll just do Renfield. We're gonna do a quick 20 questions with you.
My life is an open book. It's short. The pages are a little tattered, but it's open.
Okay.
Great. It just
Are you
means you're
ready?
read. You're well read.
Yes. You're very articulate. All right, you ready?
More than ever.
Say the first thing that pops into your head.
Bugs.
Are you a villain or a victim?
I am a human.
What did you eat for breakfast?
Bugs.
What's your favorite spider for
To
eating?
The Black Widow.
Ooh.
Oh, isn't she gorgeous? And she kills her husband.
Probably got a little bit of kick, right?
a little spicy. Truth or dare?
Dare.
That's rhetorical. We
Yeah,
don't
we're
have
not
anything
gonna
for you
be
to do.
Oh, okay.
Hunter or gatherer?
Hunter.
Should John Seward lose his medical license?
Oh, I think they should all lose their medical licenses.
Spicy or sweet?
Spicy.
Mother or father?
Mother.
What scares you the most?
Oh, the dark.
What makes you the happiest?
Oh, a really ripe lava.
I mean, great.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
Open your mind.
Straight jackets, fashionable or not?
Well, they're fashionable if you have no other options.
Okay, one word opinions.
All right.
Van Helsing,
Tall.
Jekyll and Hyde,
Misunderstood.
werewolves,
Rather friendly.
Dr. Frankenstein.
Hack.
Literally.
Literally. Ghosts.
Transparent.
Favorite recreational activity at the asylum.
Painting.
Vampire slayers, heroes or heathens.
A little bit of both.
Very nice. Renfield,
What?
what do you think of Neill Robertson?
I think he overdoes it. Nuance and subtlety would go quite far. I'm not sure he's capable of doing such a thing.
Wow. He's just dragging him.
Poor Neil.
We need to make sure that he doesn't listen to this. We might cut this part out.
Yeah.
Please do. I've heard that he's hypersensitive to criticism. So I don't think it would be a very good idea to share this with him. It might make him feel a little stupid, you know.
It's okay. We won't share this.
Okay,
we won't share this.
Good.
going
In fact, please don't share this with anyone I'm not supposed to be here, you know.
No. How did you get here?
Oh, this is trade secret, darling. I can't tell.
Where should people go if they want to purchase tickets to see Actors Theatre of Louisville's Dracula?
There's something called the interwebs. You can go to the Actors Theatre website, or, if you're savvy, you can go onto their social medias via Instagram or Facebook. You could go to the Actors Theatre Facebook page, their Twitter account, their Instagram account, and you can find all types of helpful information there as far as to how to find the appropriate avenues to purchase a ticket to see the performance.
Well, Renfield, thank you so much for coming in and
thank you. It's
part of this.
So nice to be heard, to be seen and validated.
Well, we hear you, we see you, we feel you, honey.
It's a great feeling.
We're all about validation here at the Nerdy Thirties. So
Thank you.
You are loved.
Oh my God!
All right, guys. Well, if you enjoyed this, make sure that you go and see Dracula. Oh, what are the dates for Dracula?
Oh, my
Renfield.
We open September 7th and we close on Halloween night on October 31st.
amazing.
It's going to be so good.
Exciting. So make sure that you go and you get on the interwebs, which I do want to reiterate is not an actual web. So
I feel cheated.
okay.
I'm so sorry. There's no spider on there.
I'm done. Goodbye.
But just make sure you get on the interwebs, get those tickets, and if you like this podcast, also maybe give us a like and subscribe, rate our podcast, visit our pages, nerdy30s.podbean.com, our Facebook, our Instagrams, our Tumblr, but most importantly, check out the Actors Theatre website for Dracula.